The anomaly didn't open, it fractured. A rupture thin as a nerve tore through the regulated vacuum above Zenth. The alarms didn't sound right away. They staggered, faltering once, then flaring to life one by one. Sensor nodes across the diplomatic orbital zone overloaded in sequence, like dominoes of panic falling through the Federation's most secure airspace. High Sentinel Arak Vesh, stationed aboard the defense platform Triumph Accord, recoiled from his control interface. His tri-jointed hands flickered over manual overrides, trying to reassert scanning routines. Nothing held. Each recalibration returned a null field, a blankness pure and defiant. "What is that?" he rasped, his spine jaw plates trembling as he tried to refocus the projection. "No ship should look like that." No one answered. In the silent aftermath of the rupture, something began to emerge, not moving forward, appearing as if space itself were yielding under pressure. A structure manifested at the center of the anomaly, massive, angular. Its silhouette didn't shimmer or phase, it disagreed with the space around it. Lights pulsed across its hull in patterns no spectrum could fully register. Layers overlapped one another, translucent panels cascading like nested glass, some drifting, some fixed, some shifting with no visible means of propulsion. The ship's skin didn't reflect stars, it refracted them. Commandant Helvier of the SH Thari Observatoris blinked his four eyes out of sync. "That's Lazarus," he said quietly. The name hadn't been spoken in 11 galactic years. The Federation's emergency broadcast grid surged to life, drowning out civilian networks, slamming priority channels open across Zenth. Alerts blared in every known dialect. One word, red line, an immediate threat protocol reserved for system-scale anomalies and forbidden tech exposure. From the dais of Concord, Admiral Marcus Cale of the United Earth Defense Force watched the display with narrowed eyes. The readouts were garbage. Every standard scan failed, no heat signatures, no structural data, not even a basic trajectory. The ship wasn't just unreadable, it was undetectable. "How is it even here?" murmured Ambassador Lur Sagilil, a Serenid diplomat whose carapace flushed pale yellow. "They were declared lost," Cale's jaw locked. "I signed that confirmation myself." The Lazarus didn't move, but the air around it, space, vacuum, raw existence, seemed to ripple like disturbed water. A containment flotilla launched from the nearby Vigilant Accord, composed of 50 interceptors, 4 planetary shield barges, and a command carrier. They didn't get close. At 3 astronomical units, every ship in the flotilla simultaneously lost communication and sensor capability. No debris, no fire, no damage, just silence and drift. From the top-tier platform of the Eclipse Tower, Central Command of the Galactic Council activated simultaneous oversight across 17 interspecies alliances. 74 representatives logged into emergency session within minutes. Aboard the Veritas Core, primary nerve center of Federation diplomacy, chaos pressed against every wall. Dozens of species, some with spiked dorsal ridges, others with thin luminous tendrils, argued over footage, demanded clarification, sought access. Every voice escalated. And then the transmission arrived. Not wideband, not broadcast, encrypted point-to-point to Earth. It was 7 seconds long, monotone, human standard dialect. "We are alive and we did not return alone." The words burned across the encrypted relay, devoid of emotion but not of consequence. Silence collapsed over the chamber. On the main screen, the ship pulsed once, its form bending just slightly like a breath inside a prism. All other data streams crashed. "Confirm origin," Cale didn't blink. Lieutenant Darren Hosk, UEDF liaison, checked twice. "Transmission confirmed. ID lock is Old Earth Military Encryption Protocol 9, from Lazarus, no doubt." Aboard the Triumph Accord, Sentinel Arak Vesh stepped back from the interface. He tapped his earpiece, his voice low and hoarse. "Initiate non-local alert. This is not a ship. This is a breach event. Advise full council mobilization." The message detonated across the known galaxy within minutes. News of Lazarus spread faster than light through the command protocols of the major federations. Civilian access was blocked unsuccessfully. In the pirate-claimed systems of Thuron's Belt, smugglers intercepted Blackwave copies. On Helios Prime, artificial analysts simulated scenarios and shut themselves down mid-process. Diplomatic hubs in Core 1 broadcast emergency session live streams, only to be overwhelmed by viewers and forced offline. In the Zenth orbit, containment patterns collapsed as every approach vector failed. The Lazarus had no defense field, no weapons active, it simply rejected proximity. "Someone needs to answer that message," said Sagilil, tension winding through her voice. Cale's tone was colder than vacuum. It wasn't sent to you, a pause, and you're not ready to hear what's writing in that hull. In the depths of orbital control, a Century technician, their body a mass of psionic link nerve filaments, tried to force a probe scan through the interference. His systems crashed, his link severed, he convulsed. On a lower deck, a Vexari sensor officer bled from his ocular nodules. On the diplomatic floor, two Nari interpreters simply fainted. Different species, same outcome. The Lazarus pulsed again. A low-frequency tone rippled through Zenth's orbital ring, nothing audible, but across four species capable of gravitational perception, something was felt, a pressure like something ancient taking interest. No words, no threat, a presence. In the council chamber, panic bloomed like wildfire. Chancellor Vorum of the Rask, towering, red-skinned and draped in plated robes, slammed his voice through the room. This cannot stand. The humans have returned with forbidden force, you all felt it. Councillor Veltesh of the Iasari Confederation hissed, her silver-lined body rippled with agitation. They must yield that ship. We cannot afford another Apex event. A dozen voices rose, arguments flared. Words like preemptive sanction, technological containment, species-level quarantine were spoken with terrifying ease. Kale said nothing. His eyes remained fixed on the Lazarus, still immobile in the center of the breach, surrounded by fleets it seemed not to notice. No life signs could be read, no lights inside, only the pulsing skin of the hull flexing like breath through fractured reality. Above Zenth, reality had torn open, and inside that wound, humanity had returned. But they weren't alone, and whatever followed them was still watching. The breach remained above Zenth. The Lazarus hung in silence, unchanging, unreadable, undeniable. And across the galaxy, the question wasn't what had returned, it was who would respond first. Begin recording. Full diplomatic archive timestamp. Immediate response to Lazarus reemergence. The voice of First Chair Iskardil reverberated through the council chamber as a cascade of light erupted above the table, a multilateral projection of the Lazarus rotating in silence above the delegates. Each flicker of light refracted, warping the chamber's neutral tones into uneasy shadows. Proceed, Iskar said, his voice sharp, textured with the wet rasp of his Varnathi species, tall, deep-shouldered beings covered in translucent carapace, their vocal systems split between lingual and submandibular resonance. On behalf of the Federation, stated Chancellor Elrasan of the Century Block, we submit a formal demand under Interstellar Accord Protocol 49. The Earth vessel Lazarus must submit to full technological containment and investigative disassembly for threat assessment. The words echoed. Across from him, Admiral Marcus Kale of the UEDF sat still, one gloved hand resting on the edge of the hollow table. His expression didn't change, neither did his posture. The flickering model of the Lazarus cast a faint hue across his face, a ghost from Earth's forgotten edge. To be clear, Kale said finally, you're demanding we hand over a ship that returned from death, one crewed by humans, and surrender it to non-human control. No negotiations, no shared oversight. It's a matter of galactic security, replied Councillor Veltesh, her silver form rising in one smooth, ripple-skinned motion. The Azari's compound eyes shimmered. That ship disabled 2 containment fleets without deploying a single weapon. It warped the medium around it. It interfered with gravitational logic. Added subdelegate Crayon of the Urgothi Combine, a heavy quadruped species with ribbed armor plating and glowing cyan spines. Such technology destabilizes everything we've agreed to regulate. If the humans cannot contain this incident, the Federation will. The chamber rippled with sound as murmurs stirred. From Earth, General Thomas Lancer stood alone in the satellite feed chamber beneath the UNS Geneva command dome. The man's short-cropped hair and slate-gray eyes were immovable as the projection of the council session streamed before him. "Get me a direct line to Kale, tight beam," he said. His aide, Lieutenant Mara Ivers, worked quickly. Live in 15 seconds, encryption holding. As the feed stabilized, Kale's voice cut through the channel. "They're not interested in diplomacy." "Doesn't matter," Lancer said. "We don't bend to panic. Keep your seat, but do not commit to anything. We buy time. I'm pulling the internal channels now." Within Earth's Central Strategic Operations Room, the emergency assembly was already underway. The curved table brimmed with high-ranking officials, intelligence directors, and Federation-aligned diplomats. 3 hollow feeds floated above the room, each displaying a different angle of the Lazarus, its warped hull defying spatial norms, pulsing slowly like a sleeping heart. "They're going to escalate," said Director Ulrich Halden of Human Diplomatic Intelligence. The IORI and RAS are already pushing for mobilization clauses. We need to release some control, share tech access, maybe partial disclosure, buy back political capital. Across the table, Senator Nolan Breyer of the Human Central Bloc snapped his eyes toward Halden. Partial disclosure. Are you hearing yourself? That ship is Earth's, the crew are ours. Whatever brought them back, whatever's in that hull doesn't belong to the Council. It's not about possession, said Foreign Affairs Advisor Malik Renz. It's about perception. If we resist too hard, they'll move without us. You think the Federation needs permission to board the Lazarus if they believe we're shielding a threat? The room turned to Lancer as he stepped forward. Let's stop pretending Earth holds the cards, he said, voice low but unwavering. We were allowed into the Federation because we were weak. They underestimated us. That tolerance has limits. He gestured to the hollow feed, freezing the Lazarus mid-rotation. Now they're scared, not of the ship, not even of what's on board. They're scared because we're not scared and they don't know why. Halden exhaled sharply. So what's your solution? Stonewall the Council. Let the fleet surround us until someone gets nervous enough to shoot. Lancer leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. They want access. Fine, let them keep wanting. At that moment, across Earth's moon base and Mars orbital stations, multiple encrypted attempts were being made to contact the Lazarus directly, each attempt routed through UEDF's black channel networks, using a mix of old Earth military pulses and deep quantum neural pings. None succeeded. Still nothing, reported Systems Officer Ryland Decker from Luna Command. She's dark to us, sir. Not rejecting, not bouncing, just ignoring. Lancer watched the pattern on the screen, an absence, not a denial. He nodded once. Then they've already made their choice. Back in the council chamber, L. Rawson's voice thundered again. We demand an immediate answer. The Lazarus is in violation of 9 distinct technology treaties and stands as an active destabilizer to the current power equilibrium. Kale stood slowly, dark uniform rippling under the council's shifting light. No one gave us equilibrium, we bled for relevance. We earned your permission to exist, but we don't ask for it anymore. Vesh hissed, then this is your final opportunity. Kale stared her down, no, it's yours. A low clicking noise came from Councillor Veltesh's throat, reflexive, involuntary. Not fear, something older, a sound her species hadn't made since before they discovered language. Silence fell over the chamber. Then slowly, Chair Iskar Duel raised one limb, his segmented fingers slicing through the air. Motion recorded, he said. The Federation enters formal motion for contingent apprehension of the vessel Lazarus. All member states shall prepare coordinated action pending final procedural approval. Lights dimmed as the Council's override protocols locked the session. Earth had 12 hours. Kale cut his feed, his voice reached Lancer seconds later. They're moving fast. I'll handle the fallback plans, Lancer replied. Just keep them talking. Every second they speak is a second we prepare. He turned away, issuing commands with sharp precision. Signal the orbital rings to hold full passive standby. I want every defense net in position, but nothing active, no reason to provoke yet. Across the solar system, human installations complied. Earth wasn't ready for a war, but neither was it alone anymore. The Lazarus had returned, and its silence was a calculus waiting, measuring, because this time it wouldn't be the galaxy that made the decision. And someone somewhere inside it was still deciding what would happen next. While the Council prepared for escalation and Earth braced in silence, 2 signatures flickered into existence above the upper thermosphere, brief clean energy bursts that didn't match any known transport protocol. They came from the Lazarus. Seconds later, Geneva Command received an encrypted handshake from an origin 11 years lost. No explanation, no request, just a signal, 2 passengers inbound. A sudden twist in the air announced their arrival. Captain Julian Rowe and Dr. Lena Cowrie materialized inside the secured command vault beneath the Geneva UEDF nexus. The teleport field dissipated in silence, leaving behind a shimmer of displaced light. No alarms triggered. The system had been expecting them, though no one could predict what they would bring. General Thomas Lancer stood waiting at the head of the command tier, flanked by 2 officers armed but at rest. His eyes locked instantly onto Rowe. He hadn't aged. 11 years lost, 0 signs of decay, no drift in timestamp biorhythms. Even his uniform bore the Lazarus insignia, untouched, sealed from a decade of galactic progress. Rowe stepped forward. General Lancer gave a single nod. Kawari followed, her steps slow, eyes scanning the room not for threats but for resonance. Her field sight was different now. Everything shimmered faintly, static in motion. Rowe gestured to the surrounding personnel. No recordings, no AI monitoring, will initiate manual relay. Lancer waved down his security staff, cleared the inner chamber sealed, shielded behind 30 meters of compressed armor and magnetogravitic dampeners. They sat, three human figures in a space carved from paranoia and necessity. Kalwari spoke first, "We're not entirely what we were." Lancer raised a brow, "You're going to need to start earlier than that." Rowe didn't blink. 9. The survey mission. We were scouting anomalous readings on the outer planetary shelf. Our second atmospheric dip didn't go as planned. Kalwari activated a manual data core. A holographic spool unrolled in the air, starfields folding, magnetic storms coalescing, then a sudden rupture. A sphere of inverted light exploded from the planetary crust, devouring the Lazarus before the footage corrupted. "It wasn't natural," she said. "The field wasn't a gravity well, it was displacement caused by a passing event." Rowe leaned forward. "We know now it was." Its name pulled a silence into the room. Lancer kept his eyes on them. "Define it." "We can't," Cowie replied, "not in this layer of physics, but we've seen it." "We were inside it," Rowe added. "Describe what you can," Lancer pressed. Rowe nodded. "Imagine a predator so vast that the structure of space bends in advance of its arrival. Not just matter, law, causality, entropy, identity." Kawari interjected, "Its presence bends probability. Where it passes, constants collapse, suns collapse in silence, time loops without returning. Civilizations dissolve before they can respond." Lancer's face hardened, but he said nothing. Rowe continued, "The Lazarus was drawn in when it passed near Zero's 9. We didn't survive, something else pulled us out." Kawari adjusted the data core. A new image unfolded, nothing recognizable. The projection twisted into angles that reversed on themselves. Patterns spiraled inward instead of expanding, geometry that flickered depending on where you looked. In the center, something moved, but every attempt to focus failed. The viewer's mind corrected the image, inventing stability where none existed. "They called themselves the Havith," Rowe said. "They reside above, beyond, not just outside our universe but before it. Looking at them felt like remembering something we were never meant to forget. They found us," Kawari added, "torn apart inside its breach, unmade and scattered across states of broken spacetime, and they rebuilt us." "They altered you." Rowe nodded, "Not biologically, not mechanically, conceptually. They restructured how we fit in this universe. We exist at a higher resolution now." Lancer narrowed his eyes. "You're saying you're not human." Kawari held his gaze. "We are, but we perceive more, think in layers you were never taught to see. We haven't transcended, we've been equipped." She activated a final spool. A glyph unfolded, no translation, just a structure, pure topology rotating in 3 dimensions that seemed to bleed into 4. "This is what they gave us. The instrument of continuity, a framework for stability in unstable space. A way to preserve existence when existence breaks." Lancer stepped closer to the projection. "Why you, why us?" Rowe answered without hesitation. "Because humanity survives, we adapt, endure. The Havith observed us long before language, before tools. They watched our ancestral cells refuse extinction, and they waited. They waited for us to evolve into something capable of understanding this. Not through faith, not through war," Kawari said, gesturing to the structure. "Through pattern recognition, through empathy, through ingenuity. That's the requirement." Lancer watched the glyph silently for several long seconds. "And it's still coming. It moves without need for purpose," Rowe added. "It devours not for malice but because it cannot stop. Its hunger is the inverse of creation." "Where it moves, life becomes optional," Kawari said. "Optional?" Lancer asked. "Like a suggestion in a collapsing dream," Kawari said softly. They let the weight settle, then Kawari adjusted the feed again, this time showing ruined systems, records from other species, fragments of star systems erased from the charts, audio logs of panic in dead languages. One clip showed a star rippling inward as if shrinking away from something behind it. "These," Rowe said, "were others, races older than yours, some more advanced. They saw it. Some tried to warn the galaxy. They were preemptively erased." "Not by it," Kawari clarified. "By the reactions they triggered. Chaos, fear, collapses born from the knowledge itself." Lancer's voice dropped. "You're saying the knowledge of it is more dangerous than it?" Rowe nodded. "To the unprepared, yes. Which is why we haven't told the Federation." "And why we can't," Cowie said. General Lancer stepped back from the hologram. He folded his arms, considering everything. And what now? We were sent back, Rowe answered, not as a warning, as a response. Cowrie turned off the projections. We don't have a choice, General. The Lazarus is now the only platform in known space equipped to operate where it exists. You're preparing to confront it. Not confront, Rowe said. Disrupt, derail, divert. Kaori added, but to do that, we need time and silence. And the Federation won't give either, Lancer said. No, Rowe replied, but Earth might. For a long time, no one spoke. Then General Lancer tapped the console beside him, securing the session under Protocol Black Zero, highest secrecy clearance in UEDF records. You have the time, he said, now earn the silence. Kaori stepped into the teleport ring first. Rowe followed. As the field shimmered around them, Lancer caught one last look in the captain's eyes, not fear, not desperation, calculation, like someone watching variables fall into place. Then they were gone, back to the Lazarus, back to the breach. While Rowe and Kaori returned to the Lazarus in silence, the Federation moved swiftly in the wake of Earth's refusal to yield. Council chambers reassembled, fleets were mobilized, and the word containment turned into coordinated threat response. And somewhere in the dark, a countdown only they could see had already begun. Motion passed, majority confirmed, final clause resolution enforced. The sentence echoed across the upper hall of the council spire, each word sharp as a blade. Holograms of the Lazarus spiraled midair, distorted slightly by localized field interference. The image couldn't stabilize. The ship refused coherence even in simulations which struggled to process its geometry. Seated beneath the crystalline canopy of the diplomatic dome, the assembled delegates of the Galactic Federation rose in near-unanimous silence. Iskar Duel, first chair of the Varnathi, cast his judgment into record. By authority of Cross-Quadrant Security Charter, the vessel Lazarus is now subject to collective retrieval and deconstruction under emergency protocol. The human government has 12 standard hours to comply. Tacticians across 17 planetary navies received synchronized deployment codes. From anchor platforms in orbit around Zenth, hundreds of ships repositioned into containment formation. Overlapping fields rippled. Shield domes, entropic lances powered and held on standby. Within a secure observation deck aboard the Triumph Accord, Sentinel Arak Vesh monitored the blockade's formation with narrowed eyes, his exoskeletal face plates clicking against each other in concentration. They believe the shell will hold, he muttered, as if that thing obeys the rules they understand. Back on Earth, deep within a facility beneath the Elysium crater array, General Thomas Lancer stood before a triad of military analysts and diplomatic envoys. The room vibrated under layers of shielding, more for privacy than protection. They moved faster than we expected, said Intelligence Director Morgan Hale, his voice sharp, face-flanked cybernetic implant flickering at his temple. A 12-hour window is a courtesy. The vote was just ceremony. They don't want containment, Lancer said flatly. They want control, replied Admiral Devon Rhee, head of Human Orbital Defense Command. And if we don't comply, added Rhee, Zenth becomes a battlefield. They don't need to fire a shot, said Hale. If the Lazarus activates anything. She won't, came a voice through the secure audio relay, tight, clear, and unmistakably human. Lancer turned to the embedded feed display, where a faint holographic shimmer resolved into the upper silhouette of Dr. Lena Kaori. The connection was compressed, low latency, routed through a black frequency quantum channel. She was speaking from inside the Lazarus. Her face was calm, voice surgical. She's inert for now, but if we're forced to activate the defensive lattice, the consequences won't be localized. Admiral Rhee stepped toward the feed. Dr. Kaori, what exactly are we looking at? Kaori's fingers moved through a console off-screen. A projection streamed into the room, topographic spatial mapping of Zenth's orbital region around the Lazarus. Concentric rings of warping distortion expanded and contracted subtly, like respiration. This is her passive field signature, Kaori said. Even at rest, she emits a resonance gradient across multiple spacetime layers. If we transition to defense mode, she adjusted the display. Ripple intensities spiked. One of Zenth's moons destabilized in the simulation. Shock waves bent local orbital paths. She would fracture the spacefold lattice. The containment fleets would be annihilated within seconds, and Zenth, depending on atmospheric resonance, might not remain a planet. Silence. Cold. Clinical. So you're saying this is a containment hazard, not a combat threat, Ree said. I'm saying, Kawori replied, you've built a blockade around a Starquake trigger. Lancer took a step closer to the display, and what's your assessment? Kawori's face remained still. The Lazarus doesn't want to defend itself, but if forced, she won't ask for permission. The connection dimmed but remained open, an ever-present thread between Earth's control room and the eye of the storm above Zenth. Thousands of kilometers away in orbit over Zenth, the Lazarus remained still, her layered hull shimmering in a constant state of minor flux, light sliding off in patterns that refracted backward, violating linearity. No life signs, no heat, no response. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, pressure mounted. Why haven't they responded? Demanded Chancellor El Rossin. 12 hours begins now, have they acknowledged the order? Veltesh's form flickered with agitation. They are taunting us, the silence is part of the strategy. Chair Isker's voice rang out, brittle and deliberate. We are at the edge of fracture. A dozen species are watching this play out, waiting to see how we act, if we allow Earth to defy a full mobilization directive. They've already defied it, hissed Crayon of the Orgothi. And still we posture, Ambassador Lura Sagil, the Serenid diplomat whose carapace flushed deeper amber under stress, spoke with careful hesitation. Perhaps we misjudged. Perhaps the ship is not under human control. The chamber roiled. General Lancer watched it all unfold from a black stream surveillance relay, arms crossed. They're breaking, he muttered. In the silence that followed, Kawori's voice returned over the encrypted channel. They'll strike. I know. And Zenth will suffer, I know. We should move the Lazarus. Lancer turned his head toward the projection. You said that could collapse the local space fold. Only if she's forced to respond. He met her eyes through the screen, so we don't just move, we vanish. Kawori nodded, can she do that now? She's already ready. Lancer looked once more at the silent chamber streaming in front of them. Alien voices flaring, threats mounting, time slipping. Then we make our move, he said, but not as Earth, as something else. Kawori tilted her head. We don't answer their ultimatum, he said, we erase the board. And above Zenth, something deep within the Lazarus stirred. A ripple passed across her impossible skin, like a breath held by something that had never needed to breathe, as if aware that soon it would no longer decide what space was. While the blockade held its breath and the council tallied fleets, the Lazarus turned inward. Orders had been given. The answer to the ultimatum would not be diplomatic, it would be dimensional. Inside her sealed corridors, the crew began final preparations, not to fight but to vanish. Silence had spoken. Now came the response. Close the outer loop, Captain Julian Rowe's voice carried across the Lazarus's central bridge, low and unhurried but absolute. Around him, the command ring lit in silence. No alarms, no countdowns, only action. Dr. Lena Kawori stood on the elevated platform near the Reality Fold interface. Her face illuminated by a rotating helix of data, dimensional telemetry that no other ship in the known galaxy could interpret. Loop closed, containment protocols initialized, no emissions, no leaks. Rowe looked to the crew seated around the bridge's inner channel, each of them veterans of the Lazarus's disappearance, each bearing the same subtle difference in their eyes, the quiet awareness of people who had once stopped existing. A private channel pinged, Rowe accepted it. Captain, came the voice of General Thomas Lancer from the Geneva command vault. This is our last real-time window, you sure you want to lock it in? Yes, Rowe said, we're past the line. A beat of silence passed, then Lancer responded, quieter this time, I'll hold the rear. Rowe closed the channel, then he turned to the crew. All sections meeting room 3, we finalize now. Within minutes, the key leadership of the Lazarus stood gathered beneath a sphere of semi-opaque shielding in the ship's lower deck. Tactical, science, interface, and command divisions represented by men hardened by a journey no one else would ever truly understand. Dr. Cowrie activated the archive core. The chamber dimmed and the holographic projector surged to life. What unfolded above them wasn't a simple star map or tactical scenario. It was a record of extinction. Worlds blinked out, not exploded, not invaded, collapsed. Civilizations hundreds of light years apart, their last transmissions reduced to fractured signals and malformed data spikes. Every one of these attempted to warn the galaxy, Cowrie said. Every one of them tried to share the truth. Rowe stared at the visuals, icons representing systems, then nothing. What happened after? They didn't just vanish, Kawori replied. Their warnings created panic, mass migrations, power vacuums, fragmented alliances, civil war. Luca Brenner, the Lazarus's lead operations officer, stepped forward. You're saying the knowledge itself killed them? Not directly, Kawori said. It did that, but the exposure accelerated the collapse. Fear became contagious, and when the panic spread faster than coordination could respond, systems devoured themselves. Exactly, Rowe finished. The moment Erux is known, truly known, systems no longer trust reality to hold. And that instability isn't just reaction, it's invitation. They all fell silent, the implication hung there like the edge of a blade. You're not just saying the truth is dangerous, said Commander Eli Dree, weapons officer. You're saying the truth becomes a weapon against ourselves. Kawori nodded. We can't win a war the galaxy knows it's part of, she said. We can only win it alone. Rowe paced slowly, processing each frame of collapse above them. One particular clip lingered, 3 planets spiraling inward, their orbits tangled by gravitational torsion. The signal embedded in the feed was desperate, the voice behind it barely coherent. We believed we were preparing for invasion, it said. But it wasn't a fleet, it wasn't logic, it was hunger, geometry shouldn't move that way. Lancer's voice re-entered through a secured channel from Earth. We're down to 15 minutes. They've begun fleet coordination. A Rask detachment just entered geostationary lock above Zenth's axis. Kawori responded before anyone else could. General, we've confirmed phase stabilization. If we execute now, there's minimal risk of residual gravitational backlash. Do it, Lancer said, make it count. The channel closed. Captain Rowe looked around the room once more. We don't fire, we don't run, we phase out. He placed his hand on the primary interface node. The floor around them pulsed, no vibration, no energy wave, just a shift, as if the ship decided to listen. Kawori, he said, bring it online. On the bridge, the navigational core unfolded. Folds of crystal light circuitry rotated outward, layering over the existing structure like a blooming architecture of recursion. Light bent around them, not bright, dim, refracted wrong. The dimensional anchors are aligned, Kawori said. We're ready. Execute Protocol Argo, Rowe commanded. Begin transition. What followed wasn't an engine sequence. It was silence. The stars beyond the viewport didn't move, they dilated. The hull of the Lazarus shimmered, not like metal reflecting light but like identity reflecting distortion. The black around the ship compressed into a thin shell of uncolor. Sound vanished inside the bridge. No alarms rang, no engines fired, but the crew felt it, something shifted. The concept of position faltered. Kawori stood motionless at the center of the storm. We're between, she said, almost whispering. The outer hull began to dissolve into segments of folded topology, rings that rotated against physical law, disassembling space around the ship. Each section refracted in multiple axes simultaneously. From orbit, the Lazarus looked like a ripple in memory, something that had once existed but was now being edited out. On Earth, inside the Geneva vault, Lancer watched the live feed go dark. No explosion, no flash, just absence. Lieutenant Mara Ivers stared at her console. She's gone, sir, telemetry, no return. Lancer nodded once. Secure the channel, he said. Initiate code black, we hold ground, they hold the void. A stillness settled over the room. No cheers, no mourning, just the beginning of silence. Above Zenth, in the space where the Lazarus had been, a faint pressure remained, not gravitational, not electromagnetic, just remembered space, as if the universe was still correcting itself, erasing the shadow of something it never truly understood. And deep in that fold, beyond observation, the Lazarus moved, not forward, not sideways, just away into the dark, toward the thing no one else could face and the war that could never be declared. Far beyond the edge of what the galaxy could monitor, the Lazarus fell into silence, folded into a layer of space that even time hesitated to follow. There it waited, or perhaps listened. And somewhere in the dark, as its shape vanished into equations too complex to trace, the first symptom arrived, not from within but from what had always been coming. A blue giant didn't die, it was dismissed. From orbit over the dead system of Thalon's Reach, an autonomous human relay telescope designated Oberon 9 captured it all. No gamma burst, no radiation spike, no particle wind. One moment the A-class star blazed with standard ultraviolet resonance, the next it folded inward like a thought erased mid-sentence. 5 planets went with it, their orbits collapsing into a spiral of lightless debris that did not scatter, it compressed. Inside Oberon 9, the relay AI flagged the event as a critical anomaly. It attempted to triangulate with backup arrays on Ceres Deepwatch and Relay 41 Kappa near the Tauran fringe. Both returned partial confirmations, then static, then silence. On Earth, inside the Geneva command vault, General Thomas Lancer stood before a triple array display wall watching data feeds stutter and fragment. The AI support clusters froze, reran, froze again. "No heat, no decay," said Intelligence Director Morgan Hale, eyes locked on a disintegrating waveform. "It didn't die, it disappeared." Admiral Devon Rhee stepped in beside him. "We've seen this before, not this star but the pattern." The room fell into a brittle hush. Rhee continued, voice lower now. "The Lazarus called it a gravitational severance, mass and light becoming mathematically irrelevant." "Is this it?" Hale asked. "Is this where it starts?" Lancer didn't respond. He just watched as a small triangular glyph blinked to life in the corner of the screen, an old Earth military symbol buried in code. Pattern Haveth 01 confirmed. Across the galaxy, others felt it too. On Val 3, a research station operated by the Valori Alliance, slender, six-eyed beings with porcelain-like skin and thought-speech neural bonding, reported a sudden resonance drop in the surrounding starfield. Their Lattice Work Observatory began to vibrate, emitting a hum that didn't match any known frequency. 17 seconds later, the entire facility went dark, no explosion, just cessation. Their last log transmitted moments before silence. "The sky is trembling." On the outskirts of the Joran expanse, the pirate-controlled relay moon Krixos picked up distortions on deep-range scanners. Its raider lord, a bipedal Kilari named Voruk, a scaled brute with magnetic cyber arms, watched as one of his navigators screamed without cause and collapsed, his eyes scorched. The data had no weapon, no emission. It had simply been seen. Back in the Sol system, Earth's core observatory at Luna Highwatch received an unmarked pulse. No trajectory, no origin, but the spectral pattern was unmistakable to those who knew what to look for. Dr. Lena Kawori stood alone on the Lazarus's secondary deck, staring at a dimensional model slowly resolving in front of her, an updated reconstruction of the Thalen collapse. Even inside the ship's non-local space-time envelope, the ripple had reached them. Captain Julian Rowe approached. "Confirmation." "Yes," Kawori said, not looking away. "It is here." Rowe stared at the map. He didn't need to ask how she knew. They'd both felt it, an ache at the edge of thought, a pressure behind reality. The Lazarus hadn't been targeted, but it had noticed, and it had been noticed in return.